That tip-off is at 4. Game day will start at 1:30. Today is a Trailblazers Ticket Tuesday. We have a pair of Warriors and Blazer tickets. We'll do that at 5 o'clock. Just listen to Dwight and Chad for your chance to win. Also, we kick off Hops Ticket Tuesdays today. We have a 4-pack of tickets to sit in the Rip City Radio Row out in Hillsboro as the Hops are preparing to launch their new season. The Final Four on Saturday starts at 3, NC State and Purdue, followed by Alabama and UConn. Purdue favored by 8.5. UConn, the odds-on favorite to win the tournament, favored by 11.5. Mariners will host the Guardians tonight at T-Mobile Park in Seattle. First pitch at 6:40. Luis Castillo will take the mound for Seattle. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad is coming at you next. Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings, will stop by at 4:20. All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. You can listen, of course, on 620 Rip City Radio, the iHeartRadio app, or you can join us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. Be sure to click and subscribe to the page, and also you'll find the live links for all of our local shows right there. We're going to talk with Justin Myers, Rip City Mornings. He'll stop by at 4:20, and today we have some goodies to give away. We have a pair of tickets for Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, Warriors and Trailblazers. We'll do that today at 5. And then the Hillsboro Hops are going to kick off their season at the end of this week. We have Hops Ticket Tuesdays, which begin today. So we have a 4-pack of tickets to give away for the Hillsboro Hops. Your chance to sit in the Rip City Radio Row. So we'll do that on the show today. We'll talk some basketball. If you want to jump on board, and telephone number is 503-248-0620. You can find Dwight on X at Dwight James. You'll find me there at Chad in Rip City. At Chad in Rip City. Michael Shacker is here. And a lot of different things we want to get to today. Might as well start with the game last night, Godfather, with LSU and Iowa. Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese, the rematch from what we saw last year. And I'll say this. All I need in sports is star power. And if you give me stars and you give me a reason to watch, I am in. And I was captivated by that game last night. A high-scoring game. I thought both teams really tried to push the pace, especially Iowa. And on a stage like that, the two stars really shined out, especially Caitlin Clark, showcasing her range, her ability on both ends of the floor, and the vision that you spoke about yesterday. And I found it terrific. It was awesome to be able to sit back and watch that game and anticipate something with stars and two teams that were trying to get somewhere, which is cool.
Well, you talk about star power. She has it. I mean, the charisma, she's got it all. I mean, she's going to be the face of the WNBA, whether she plays like a superstar or not. She is somebody people are going to tune in to watch. And I made statements yesterday about her ability at long-range threes. I'm still not sold on it over the long term. Yesterday was ridiculous how many of those long threes she made. She was so ready for that game, Chad. And her teammates have gotten pretty good, and I think partly because they know if they move, if they play hard and do the right things, she's going to get them the ball. That's the ideal superstar to play. It's like playing with Magic Johnson. You know, yeah, he can score, but he likes getting you the ball. And she looks like she loves making. And I'm not talking about just passing the ball. She makes great passes. Great passes. I mean, it's unbelievable, Chad. She put the ball right in the pocket on the fast break, hitting ahead, and I mean hitting ahead 35 feet to somebody almost to the basket. That's a small little window to hit. She hit it every time. It's unbelievable to me how good she is passing the basketball. I've seen shooters. I haven't seen very many people, male or female, who can pass the ball the way she does. Incredible passer.
I think she's the female version of Steph Curry in the way she plays, her handle, the way she can shoot the ball, her range, her passing ability. We were talking the other day about the impact of Steph Curry globally on the game of basketball. And I really believe that because he's smaller and looks like someone that we can all relate to more
Mm.
so than a giant like Karl Malone or
Yeah.
Hakeem Olajuwon or Michael Jordan or guys who can fly through the air or someone like LeBron who is a ridiculous athlete with his size and his strength. We look at Steph Curry and it's like, hey, I can relate to him. A little bit smaller, undersized, but he finds a way to overcome. And he's shooting these long range shots. And you've seen it at the high school level.
Yeah.
We've seen it in college, the impact of other people trying to hit those long range logo type threes. And Caitlin Clark has put in the time on her game. Her skill level is incredibly high. And now look at her. She's out there showcasing her ability from distance. I just thought it was neat that all the pressure and all the eyes were on her last night. And she is a lightning rod for controversy right now with the attention that she's getting. And none of that bothered her. She went out there and performed at an elite level. And right now in the tournament, everyone knows going in that she's going to get shots and she's going to have to score for that team to win. They're
Yeah.
relying upon her.
Yeah.
And they can't stop her. She's getting 30-plus every night. It's awesome to see someone who is expected to perform step up and do it game in and game out for their team.
Yeah, you talk about expected to perform. There's a lot of people watching just to poke holes in her, to
Yeah.
find fault with her, to say, well, she's not that good.
Yeah.
But they're not finding anything last night. I can guarantee you that, Chad. And I would say this too. We had Burkhardt in here who works for the OSAA, and he's been watching a lot of high school girls basketball, and he was telling us already at that level they're shooting long threes.
Yeah.
Now it's going to take a while before they get up to her skill level, just as it did with the boys, really. But if they're shooting them from out there, at some point we're going to find other young girls in high school getting proficient in that shot, just like we did with Curry. And that's why it's such a good analogy, is Curry changed the game. This woman is changing the women's basketball game. She is. She's changing the game. And I love the fact that she's not just a gunner. And that's what makes me the happiest, because she set an example. This is an example of how you're supposed to play the game. Yeah, you're going to score. You're going to be the leading scorer. You're going to get 30 a game. But you're not hogging the ball all the time. You're keeping your teammates happy. You're playing the right way. And that's the way Steph has always played, too. He plays the right way. And I think that's why she is so good. Caitlin Clark is so good for the women's game right now. Plus, the fact that she's bringing so many eyeballs to the TV set when she plays.
Yeah, and that's a great point, a segue. You asked me a while ago, is that game last night something that will make you want to watch more women's basketball games? And my answer to that is yes, because the women's game has got something that the men's game doesn't have right now. When I grew up watching college basketball, I was a huge college basketball fan. Now, that has changed over the course of time, but the reason why I was a huge college basketball fan when I was younger, I was an Oklahoma fan, and they had Billy Tubbs. They ran run-and-gun style offense, but they had star power. Stacey King, Mookie Blaylock, Harvey Grant, and they were guys that I knew would be back in their lineup year after year after year because you didn't have the one-and-dones. And then we had Duke with Leitner and Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley and the great teams they had who played together for 4 years, and Leitner was in the Final Four all 4 years of his college career. And I can pinpoint all these different colleges where I knew the players who were going to be on the team each and every year because you didn't have one and done. Well, college basketball on the men's side doesn't have that anymore because guys are coming in, playing a year, and they're leaving, so there's no continuity. But last night we had this matchup where you had the storylines with Caitlin Clark and her legacy, and you had LSU coming off their championship and what they did to Iowa last year, and you had that rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. If those players are not around and you don't have them in their programs, we don't have that type of rivalry or that type of moment last night. So the women have that on their side, the continuity and the fact that those players are staying. And NIL actually might benefit the women's game more long term because the money for these college players is different than what they're making in the WNBA at the current moment. So it's going to provide continuity, which will set up more of these matchups for us.
Yeah, and it's going to be good for them in another way. Once the colleges catch on to the fact that the women's teams can draw fans now, if you invest in it, you're going to see more NIL money channeled in that direction, and they're going to get more money to keep their stars there because you pointed out to me today, and you don't even think about it much, the WNBA, they don't pay much. They can match that in college
Yeah.
or more. What do they get? What's the average salary now in the
I saw a
WNBA?
number. I think it was around $76,000. That's
chicken
chump change.
feed. Yeah.
Angel Reese is faced with this situation now. Do I leave for the pros or do I stay at LSU? She can make significantly more in NIL money because of her star power with that university in the college game than she would jump into the WNBA. So it would make sense for her. Stick around. You'll make another run and have a chance to win another championship, and you'll make more money.
Yeah, and you hit on something, too, that's really important. The men don't stick around, and that's why people aren't watching college basketball the way. Heck, I watched Bird and Magic in college. You talk about a rivalry. I mean, that set the tone, and you can go all the way back with the great players at North Carolina, the UCLA teams. Those guys were in for the duration. If a guy was a sophomore, you had 2 more years to that guy.
Yeah.
You knew that. In fact, in those days, freshmen played JV ball, freshman team ball. They weren't even allowed to play varsity, but that didn't matter because you knew you were going to see them for 3 years on the varsity, so you could get attached. And here locally, Chad, Oregon and Oregon State, those great teams that they had, you knew, oh, man, I can't wait till next year. Radford and Bloom.
Yeah.
Steve Johnson will be back in the middle. They're going to be a powerhouse, you know, and you can count on that. You could buy your season tickets and know what you were going to see. You know, I dare you to do that. Say with the Ducks this year. The Ducks made a great run at the end of the season. How many of those guys going to be back? Who's going to be playing for them? Do we know? Maybe with some of them. Probably not with all of them because there's, transfer portal. They can jump to the NBA. They have all sorts of options now. But, you're seeing the women's game with repeatable superstars. That's huge for them. It's going to mean a lot moving forward.
Listen to this. Caitlin Clark is expected to be the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft. In her first year, she would earn a base salary of approximately $76,000 with the possibility of earning additional incentives. If she is named the WNBA Rookie of the Year, she would receive a bonus of $5,150.
Oh, God. Why would that is just ridiculous.
It's the rookie salary. The average salary in the WNBA is $102,000.
Wow.
So, so just strictly on a financial basis, it would make sense for Angel Reese to return to LSU and cash in on NIL opportunities, which is good for her.
And really, Chad, those salaries are based upon a salary cap to a degree. Those teams aren't really profitable like the NBA teams are. So they can't afford to pay them too much more than that or they're not in business, So it's a tough thing, but somehow they're going to have to come up with more money or they're going to keep losing players to college.
The other thing I'm wondering, too, is with these stars in college basketball on the women's side, having stars, those are the type of ladies that can have a dramatic impact on young girls who may choose to play basketball instead of soccer or a different sport. So that type of star power can impact youngsters, which could create a different pathway for them. And all of a sudden, you're able to groom more basketball talent.
Yeah, because people aren't watching college men's or women's soccer the way they're watching men's or women's basketball.
Yeah, so for me, give me star power. It's one of the reasons why I've always loved women's tennis because for years, in my childhood growing up and into my adult life, there were always big-time stars on the women's side that I wanted to tune in and watch.
Yeah.
Which is great. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back and focus in more on Caitlin Clark and what we saw last night with Iowa and LSU. We'll get to Kim Mulkey a little bit later, too. The story that came out in the Washington Post. And I really believe this. I think Dwight's with me on this, too, that if Kim Mulkey were a man, she might just be another coach, and no one would bat an eye. But there's one thing that a lot of these great, great coaches have in common, and we're seeing that with Kim Mulkey as well. We'll keep things rolling here. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Dwight, I noticed it in the game last night. The advantage of having a Caitlin Clark on the floor, it just looked like they got easier shots. Everything came
Yeah.
easier for them on the offensive end. I thought LSU played well, but they had that difficult stretch into the third quarter where they were having a hard time finding a way to score the basket. And I think they just had to struggle a little bit more. And it was Caitlin Clark with her handle and her passing, her shooting that opened up the floor. And Iowa, with their cutting and their movement, was able to get easier looks.
I don't think there's any question because she can win the battle off the dribble almost any time she wants. And everybody knows if she goes with her right hand, she's trying to get all the way to the basket. If she goes left, she's probably going to pull up and shoot a jump shot. Everybody knows that, and they can't do a damn thing about it. She's so good that it doesn't matter. And she is creating an awful lot of shots for her teammates. But that's what great players do. You look at the NBA, everybody wants that guy who can create off the dribble, get his own shot because he makes it easier for his teammates. And I have to say with Iowa, I'm surprised her teammates have gotten better. They make the open shots. They make their layups, which isn't always a given in the women's game. It's not because of pressure on your layup and stuff. They're missed probably more than they are in the men's because they can't dunk. So they're tougher shots. But she's a wonder. I mean, she is a wonder. She is a special player, and I, for one, can't wait to see her up to the next level to see how all that works out for her.
All right. So explain to me the background on Iowa and women's basketball.
Believe it or not, Chad, high school girls in Iowa were playing in the 20s. There was sanctioned high school girls basketball in the 20s, but they didn't think that young girls could handle 5-on-5 real basketball, so they played 6-on-6. But it was unusual in that 3 were on offense, 3 were on defense. You were not allowed to cross the half court line. So, and they drew, I mean, there's a 15,000 seat arena that would be the state tournament host. It was sold out for every game, and tickets were scalped for the championship game. It was unbelievable how popular it was. It was telecast all through the Midwest, but the scores would go over 100 points in a high school girls game because they were playing offense 3-on-3. And if you had one girl that was really good, oh gosh, one of these girls scored 93 points in a game because of playing against basically nobody in the half court. And they didn't change till like the 50s, I think it was, that they finally changed to 5-on-5 because the high school coaches were saying, we can't get our girls recruited now. They're not going to be able to play at the next level if coaches don't see them playing 5-on-5. We can't, this 3-on-3 half court stuff's not good enough. So they finally did change over. Even then, though, there was concern. Well, gee, I don't know if our girls can handle this. 5-on-5 is a little strenuous because part of the 6-on-6 half court 3-on-3, part of the rules was you could only take 2 dribbles. They didn't want you dribbling any more than that.
Wow.
Which was an entirely different game. But it's very well known in the Midwest about how popular it was. And it preceded it. And that's why it's kind of ironic that she's playing in Iowa. And apparently the heritage of that game in Iowa is part of the reason she stayed. And her coach played 6-on-6 basketball in school herself. She's an old timer, and she very fondly remembers those games.
Interesting. One thing I did like about the game last night, too, is that I was concerned at the end that there might be some unnecessary shenanigans.
Yeah.
I thought both sides handled it with class.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know how I feel about the post-game thing. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think it's fake. I don't think you should, good game, all the way through the line, slapping somebody's hand. It doesn't
I don't care if
mean
it's boys, girls, whatever. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
In an emotionally charged situation, why would you want to try and mix those two things together?
It's crazy.
Coaches, players, whatever. No, go your separate ways and allow things to simmer down. But I thought both sides handled it with class, which is great. And I got to be honest with you, going back to the star power, they don't just need stars who are great at the game, but having a little personality doesn't hurt. I mean, we've seen that across sports. We like guys who are great and also have a bit of a personality. So I think the fact that you've got Caitlin Clark out there, showing her emotion, or Angel Reese showing her emotion, or take your pick. with the star power that they have and the emotion they show, I think that's good for the game. Especially if they're good at basketball and they're out there getting the things done, I have no problems with players expressing themselves to a degree.
Well, they're also fitting a niche that a lot of men wanted to see hit. The idea that the NBA and major college basketball has kind of forgotten the fundamentals. They don't play a lot of structured offense. It's mostly freelance stuff, one guy playing hero ball or just open court stuff. The women's game, you watch. I mean, they're running stuff almost every time down the court. They're very disciplined. They run their offense. They get the ball to open shooters. It's done really, I think, on a much more structured basis than the men's game is now. And old-time fans love that stuff.
Yeah.
I hear it from my friends all the time, rather watch the women because they play real basketball. They kind of do.
The one thing I would say about the college game, and I was noticing this with the men's game over the course of the tournament, the one thing I like about college basketball, and let's face it, I'm a big NBA fan. I grew up on the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
The athletes and the play is superior. It's not even close to college. But the one thing that college has now that the NBA doesn't is you still have a true post presence in college basketball.
That's
you can have a big man who plays with his back to the basket. They try to get the ball inside. So instead of it being 5 out, you could have, 4 out with one guy down on the post. We're seeing that with Iowa and Zach Edey. I still like the traditional big man and the way that game is played. And right now, college basketball, they still have those guys, right? It may not translate to the NBA, but we still have that element to the game in terms of college basketball right now, which I like. And we saw it last night with Iowa and LSU on the women's side, where you're right, both teams had different actions to try and get the offense and the shots that they wanted. It's just that with Caitlin Clark and her handle and the way she stretches the defense, it just comes easier for them.
Yeah, it's going to be easy on the men's side, or interesting on the men's side that Edey, he's going to be the 2-time player of the year in men's college basketball.
Yeah.
He's going to be like I won't say a nothing in the NBA because I think he'll be on a roster. He'll play some. But he's not going to be a star in the NBA because they just don't have any use for players like that anymore. They're outmoded, and it's a shame in a way. I kind of miss that low post action and people playing off the post guy in the middle the way Purdue does with Edey. And they, this is a big year for them too because they're a first round and out team, for a couple of years in a row, and people were saying, hey, they're not going to get it done, but here they are in the Final Four. It'll be interesting now because you're going to have to deal with him if you want to beat them. They're going to have to figure a way to guard him, and he's really tough inside.
He's a big-time problem, serious problem.
In
right?
college, I'll take him any day.
Yeah, most guys he's up against can't compete with his size or his strength, and it's not like he's a bumbling big guy out there.
No.
He's got some skill level.
Yeah.
He's got good footwork. He can handle the rock. He's got some good hands. He's going to be tough, and he gives them a chance because of his presence to be able to go out there and win a championship, and if necessary, possibly get past UConn.
Yeah.
He's that type of player. I like that. The NBA doesn't have that anymore. They're looking – I mean, we see it with all the bigs, right? Like Rudy Gobert is a terrific defender and a rim protector. But come playoff time where teams really focus in on their opponent and devise game plans to eliminate certain players against certain teams with matchups, he's going to be really ineffective if he's out away from the basket. He's best when he's right there by the rim defending. But you get him out away from the basket, and you can take advantage of him.
Yeah.
And that's not just Gobert. That's Nurk. Take your list of big guys, right?
Yeah.
Away from the basket, they're ineffective.
So let me ask you about Kareem. Plop him down in today's game. What do you think? I mean, would he be? I mean, you still have to guard. They'd make you guard him, I think. I mean, with that skyhook and everything, you'd have to defend him.
Yeah.
But man, they'd run him silly with pick and rolls. He'd be out on the floor covering somebody all the time.
Yeah, you'd pull him away from the basket, and he wouldn't be able to do it, and therefore he would be left ineffective for large portions of the game. And it's crazy to say that, but that's the truth.
Yeah, or you'd play a lot of zone with him and somehow figure out a way to hide him in your zone.
Yeah.
I think that's really that's all you could do. I don't think you could play him man-to-man.
Well, if you've got a team that's on fire from downtown, can you afford to go down and give it into Kareem and try to match that team with twos?
Well, you could because he's probably going to shoot about 70% in today's game because he's going to be facing smaller guys in there than he used to. So you might be able to match it with that, but
it's not just Kareem. Take any of the great bigs.
Yeah.
And all the great centers were playing when I was a youngster, take Kareem, Robert Parrish, Hakeem Olajuwon,
Yeah.
David Robinson.
Yeah.
Take any of your pick. What do? It's a different game. It's mind-blowing to think that those guys, or even Shaq,
Yeah.
how would you utilize him in today's
He
game?
would really be in trouble because he's more slow-footed defensively than most of those guys.
Yeah.
He would be hard-pressed to come out on the floor and guard anybody.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? I was trying to think of all the big men, like even Bill Laimbeer. He would fit more in today's game because he could shoot the
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
But foot speed-wise, he wouldn't be crafty at being able to cover the three-point line.
He'd be a real problem for you on defense. I don't know how he would guard anybody, really. He was very slow.
That's why these new age bigs, and the two that come to mind, of course, Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama, they grew up in a different time, right? To
Yeah.
where they were doing different things. They were not playing the big man spot, the 5, in the traditional sense. And so therefore they developed these different skills. And now you have those two guys, unique bigs, who they can shot block and protect the rim. They can defend the pick and roll, and they can also cover the three-point line.
And they can also make threes.
Yes.
Which is even more ridiculous.
So it's just amazing to see how the game has changed. So I'm just a big fan of what I got last night, and I'm hoping that we'll get more matchups like that. But when you look around the landscape of college basketball for the women, it's not just Caitlin Clark. We got other stars that are still in the game and will come back next year. Angel Reese, if she returns. Juju out at USC is terrific. UConn's got a couple of nice players. So there's enough talent and star power that they could create some of these matchups moving forward, which is terrific.
And it makes me think back. It's a shame that COVID cost Sabrina the rest of that last year at Oregon, because she would have been a real folk hero in the Final Four. I mean, that team was probably going to win that year, I think. And she was a special player at that time. She was not what Caitlin is now, but she was a really good special player in college.
So what do you think will be the key of building off of the momentum that the women's game has gotten over the last year plus and continue to grow their fan base? So you have more young people, more people our age, different people grabbing on and latching on and watching women's basketball.
Well, Chad, you hit on the one thing. They got to keep their players around. If they start losing the Caitlin Clarks after 1 year, they're going to go the same route as the men's game has gone. They got to keep them around. But then they have to do more, I think, to create those superstars. I think if this continues to grow as it is, they'll get more NIL money, which is going to help retain their players from going to the WNBA. But also what we're seeing, Chad, and I know you've brought this up to me off the air, they're better players than they used to be.
Can you see that? Like, I was watching the game last night. They just the women athlete in college basketball right now, it's just different than what I grew up with.
Yeah, but I would say this, for the Cheryl Millers of the world, she was ahead of her time.
Yeah.
She was athletic at that time. And
probably the greatest women's basketball player ever, Cheryl Miller.
You'd get an argument from some people, but yeah, I think you're probably onto that. I think that's correct. But all of them are athletic now, pretty much. Almost all of them are athletic. And it just didn't used to. If you had one of those athletes on your team, you were usually UConn. That's the way it worked. And UConn had this tremendous dynasty because there just weren't that many players to go around. It would be UConn and one or two other teams, Stanford or Tennessee usually, who could beat them. That's where all the good players were clustered. They were just clustered at those schools for good reason. Those are the schools that won. They kept getting the best players because they won. And they got a lot of attention at those schools because the women's game was popular. So that worked out for them really well. Nowadays, though, there's enough good players that you can rise up. You can be Oregon State now. You can get enough players to compete, if not the Final Four, real close to the Final Four. And maybe that, if Oregon State can hold on to that group they have, they got a shot next year at getting there. So there are a lot more good players. They're much more athletic than they used to be. At least that's my perception. And I've seriously been watching it since it wasn't a certified girls sport in Oregon. It was a club sport.
I was so excited. I think it was 2009. It was the opening night in the NBA.
Hmm.
And Gavin and I had traveled down to Los Angeles. The Trailblazers were opening up the season that year against the Lakers, and it was Greg Oden's first game
Mm-hmm.
after missing his rookie season with that injury, right?
Yeah.
So it was a big night, and Kobe and the rest of the gang were there. But before the game, I'm down there by the court, and I see Cheryl Miller walking by herself, right? And immediately I was starstruck. And so I went up and introduced myself and talked to her for a little bit because I appreciated her as a player, but I also thought she was a terrific broadcaster. And she was super nice. And it was great to chat with her. And then I was able to get a picture with her too. So I did. I was a little bit of a fanboy, but
Yeah.
Cheryl Miller was big time. And I grew up at the right time where I knew who she was. And the best thing is she comes from a great basketball family. Like her brother Reggie is
Great sports family.
great sports family. But in her family, she's the better basketball player than Reggie. And even Reggie would admit that in terms of what she did in the women's game, more of an impact than Reggie Miller, who was a terrific NBA player.
So you're old enough that you saw her play.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
She was something, wasn't she?
Yeah. She played like she was a guy. I mean, she was dominant. She was quick.
Yeah.
She moved fast. She could do everything on the floor. IQ. I mean, she was dominant.
Another name just came to mind. Lisa Leslie.
Terrific.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, terrific.
Woo.
And the one thing I like, too, is some of these announcers, too, like Candace Parker, I mentioned her. I think she does a terrific job on set talking women's game and the NBA game. And I think Rebecca Lobo does a great job of commentating on the women's game, too. So, yeah, we just need more star power. For me, it's all about stars. I don't care what sport it is, men's, women's, whatever. Give me the stars, and I'm in, right? That's what I like in sports. I like to watch star power. That's why I'm so interested in the Dodgers this year and why I'm going to watch and pay attention to every single game they play because Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman. That's all I need.
That's pretty good.
Yes. And think about some of the women's tennis players.
MVPs sitting 1, 2, 3.
It's sickening.
Get out of here. Get
It's so
out of
good.
here with that.
That's why Shohei off to a slow start for Shohei.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because their lineup is littered with star power.
Yeah, they got everything. It's the Dodgers. They'll always have good pitching because they develop it themselves. They don't have to go out and get it from somebody else. And then they got all those guys lower in the lineup that they're willing to pay them. Keep them around, the Max Muncies of
Will
the world.
Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Will Smith. Give him a 10-year contract. A catcher. A 10-year contract.
And that was like 140 mil.
Yeah. Jeez.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
They can go out and purchase whatever their farm system doesn't have, which is not much because they have everything.
Yeah. Or they can use that farm system to trade for really good players too, which they've done.
It's going to be fascinating to watch because that's one of those teams, Godfather, where there's only one acceptable outcome. Anything short of them winning the championship is a complete disaster and failure.
Yeah.
And that's the way they'll look at it.
Oh, man.
That's pressure. And I want to see how that works as we get closer to the end of the season because they're going to win over 100 games.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like you said, if they catch fire, they could win 120, which is insane to
Which
say.
would be the most ever by far.
Yes.
But, yeah.
But that's the type of talent base that they have. It's all about pitching now. And I also saw, I forgot his name, but the other top prospect in Japan has indicated that he plans to
Yamamoto?
sign
Oh, you're talking about, the guy.
the other guy that's still over there.
Yeah.
And he's going to come over to the majors next year. His plans are to sign with guess who? The Dodgers.
Of course. Well, Yamamoto, the pitcher, he had a rocky first outing. His second outing was really good.
Yeah. He bounced back quickly.
Oh, he's tough.
How do you think he looks so far through your eyes?
Oh, he's tough, man. It's going to be really hard to deal with him. He's got great stuff. Ball moves all over the place.
Hmm.
And it looks like he knows how to pitch. Most of those guys that come over from Japan are very crafty. They really understand how to pitch.
They've gotten better over time, too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How good is the competition they faced in the Japanese league?
Well, it's not like the big leagues.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. It's getting better all the time. And, baseball's so big over there. I mean, their high school championship is huge. Big crowds, television, all the games, just for their high school. So I got to get over there and see baseball. I'd love to see baseball in Japan.
It's huge over there. Yeah, so in other words, they don't face a Betts, Ohtani, Freeman lineup. That's your first three.
I don't. And no, come on. That's not right. That's just not fair, Chad.
I think Betts, he has been for now at least a couple of years. He's my favorite player in baseball. I marvel at his ability. He makes the game look easy. I like players like that. And he can play, they can put him anywhere.
I just like the way it looks when Otani's in the on deck circle and Betts is getting ready to go to the plate. You get that shot of their backs where it says Otani Betts.
Yes. Yes.
That's a nice picture.
And based on the numbers, a lot.
Yeah.
4.5 million. All right, we'll come back. We'll keep things rolling. We have a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops. We'll give those away coming up next on the Rip City Drive. Yeah, I'm jealous, Godfather, because my daughter is in Seattle right now, and she goes up to Seattle every spring break, and
Yeah.
she's going to take in a couple of Mariner games. So she'll be at the game tonight, and she'll also be at the game tomorrow, which is a day game.
Good for her.
Yeah, and she sent me a picture from Pike Place Market. She's down there right now. There's some guy, some nut vendor, who has the best like roasted nuts, salted nuts, and the mixed nuts that you can possibly imagine.
When you said that, by the way, he's a nut vendor. In other words, he's selling nuts. I thought you meant there's a vendor who's kind of nuts. But
I haven't met a vendor that's not a bit nutty.
yeah,
They're all crazy.
that's a point.
And I'm okay with that. But she brought me back a bag last year of this mixed nuts with the salt on it. It was the best nuts I've ever had. So I said, look, you didn't bring me back a souvenir from your DC trip, which I paid for. That's fine. I can get over that. But you're going to Seattle. I need the nuts. And so she sent me a picture and said, guess where I'm at, Dad? And so she's taking care of me right now. So she's going to bring back a big supply. And
That's a good daughter right there.
I discovered this. I had no idea, but apparently my Food Saver deal has a attachment with bags that you can open and reseal. And
Yeah.
so what I do is I take the sandwich bag of nuts, and she'll bring me back a big load, and then I put them into this Food Saver deal. And every time I open it and eat some, it's like a Ziploc bag, but you can vacuum seal it, and it keeps those things as fresh as you can imagine, which is amazing. But also, this is what I love about what Seattle's doing, and I think the Marlins, there may be somewhere else, for an additional $52 to your game ticket, all you can eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Well, that's the way the Blazer games used to be with that level.
The club level.
Club level, yeah.
I am more than willing to pay an extra $52 if I can go and get peanuts, my pretzel, a nice little refreshing Diet Coke, the whole
Yeah.
shebang. I think that's the best way to do it. Because sometimes you don't want just one thing, but you want a little bit of everything. And I love, that's the way to do it. That's the experience right there.
Well, I have to tell you, you start talking about nuts. I was going to Fenway Park for a baseball game. Outside the ballpark, there's guys selling peanuts in a brown paper bag, and they're so hot you can't even hardly hold them. I mean, these peanuts are roasted, and they're like right off the roaster. You take those inside the ballpark and open up that bag, you got the best peanuts you've ever had in your life. To this day, I think about those peanuts and wonder why nobody else is doing something like that. Hot roasted peanuts,
It's
right
the best.
there. Perfect.
I think his name, the Peanut Man from Seattle, I think his name was Rick Kaminsky. He was the awesome guy who would walk around the Kingdom, and he would have the hot roasted peanuts in that little
guy,
foil bag.
He used to throw the guy that used to throw them to
Yes, the Peanut Man.
He'd throw them behind his back and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, from 2 sections over.
Oh, I remember that guy well. He was amazing. That was an attraction right there.
Yeah, the Peanut Man. His real name was Rick Kaminsky, and he was my favorite whole shebang up there in Seattle when I go to football games. I was waiting for him to come by, and then he would throw a behind the back pass on the money from 2 sections over, and then he'd work his way over and get his money and stuff. But you would open up that bag. The peanuts were hot.
Yeah.
And peanuts are great, but when you put a little heat to them and then you put them in a foil bag and you hand deliver them, they're the best.
Changes everything. They had, at that time, they had the peanut guy. They also had Bill the Beer Man, who was still a novelty act and pretty popular. You remember Bill? He worked for the Blazers for a while.
Yes. In fact, Paul Allen, I believe that Kaminsky may have been brought down to Portland to work some Blazer games as well, the Peanut Man. And that's the way to do it. But he was the best. But yeah, I love that. I love those options. But man, $50, because you're going to spend a ton of money at the ballpark on food regardless. So why not just spend an extra 50?
Yeah.
And then you can have a little bit of everything. I like that. I like that a lot. Now I just got to figure out which games I'm going to go to. I haven't picked out any Seattle Mariner games to go to yet, but I will figure that out. But I like going up to Seattle usually in late August, early September when the weather's perfect to catch some ball games there.
We should do a show from up there.
Well, we can. And the great part is we got the iHeart station up there.
Yeah.
But our boss could get us access to be able to do a show and be able to take in a Mariner game. You'd be down with that, wouldn't you?
Oh, come on. Absolutely. It'd be fun.
But that's not bad. $52, and you get the all-you-can-eat ticket. And based on the price of items, the $52, I would just make sure that I ate at least $52 worth of food to get my money's worth.
Yeah, that might be hard for you, though. You eat a little too healthy for ballpark food.
That's true, but when I go to ballparks, my 2 favorites, peanuts, pretzels.
Yeah.
Those are my things. And Diet
Peanut.
Coke.
How can you watch a baseball game without peanuts?
I just love to look down at my pants and see the
Yeah.
peanut dust,
But
and I
but
got to dust it off. That's when I know I'm doing good work there.
but the thing about baseball games and peanuts is you can just go ahead and drop the shells on the ground. That's about where else can you eat peanuts and just not worry about the shells? You gotta at home you gotta open up a bag and make sure the shells get in the bag. No, no, no. I'd like to just drop them on the ground and let somebody come along later and sweep them up for me. That's fine.
It's the best. All right, we have a 4-pack of tickets for the Hillsboro Hop. You and 3 guests will be experiencing opening night with the Hops on the Rip City Radio Row this Friday, April 5th, when the Hops take on the Everett Aqua Sox at Hillsboro Baseball Park. The first pitch goes out at 6:35, and you can stick around for fireworks after the game. DJ Revshine on the concourse pregame and rally towels for the first 1,000 fans. You can always get your tickets at hillsborohops.com. So let's give away a 4-pack right now, Godfather.
That's your Mariner minor league farm club too. So if you're a Mariner fan, you should.
Are they a Mariner minor league club?
Yeah.
No, it's the Diamondbacks. The Hillsboro Hops?
No, I'm talking about the Aqua Sox.
Oh, the Aqua Sox.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's do it right now. First caller through, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. First caller through gets a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops on opening night this Friday. Rally towels for the first 1,000 fans, and you can stick around following the game for fireworks. 503-248-0620. Fire away with your phone calls right now, 503-248-0620. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. When we come back, we'll take your phone calls, and we'll talk a little Portland Trailblazer basketball. The experts are not high on this year's draft. What does that mean for Portland and how they go about their business? We'll talk about that next on the Rip City Drive. All right, now 4 o'clock. The Trailblazers will continue their 7-game roadie tomorrow. They're in Charlotte to take on the Hornets. Tip-off is at 4. Game day will start at 1:30 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Trailblazers ticket Tuesday today. We have a pair of Warriors and Blazers tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up at 5 on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Also, we just gave away a pair of Hops tickets, and we're going to do that every Thursday throughout the entire baseball season. So always tune in to Dwight and Chad for your chance to check out the Hillsboro Hops. Final Four Saturday starts at 3. NC State and Purdue, followed by Bama and UConn. Boilermakers an 8.5-point favorite, and the Huskies an 11.5-point favorite over the Tide. Mariners host the Guardians tonight. First pitch 6:40 from T-Mobile Park. Luis Castillo on the bump for Seattle. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings, will stop by at 4:20. All right, Godfather, we just had Dale Rule, good friend, chime in. Hey, Chad, early 80s, Fletcher High School in Oklahoma. I used to watch my cousins play 6-on-6 girls half-court basketball. It was wild.
No kidding. That's great to get confirmation on that.
Interesting. Very interesting.
They say it was really noisy. Lots of screaming and yelling and raucous fans, I guess.
A lot of nonsense.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right, I want to read this to you. We were talking about the Peanut Man up in Seattle, Rick Kaminsky, who was a legend. He passed away back in 2011, but I want to read a couple of excerpts that I picked up on Kaminsky. His trademark peanut toss was a behind-the-back line drive thrown for distance with velocity, with a Mariner scout clocking one such Kaminsky throw at 72 miles per hour with a radar gun. Can you imagine that? There were a couple times where one came right at my face, and I was like, I better get my hands up.
Yeah.
72 miles an hour in a bag of peanuts. That is wild. Isn't that awesome?
I think that's a record, probably.
It's so terrific. Kaminsky's death was marked by the team with a moment of silence to be playing of the national anthem at the July 29, 2011 Mariners game against the Tampa Bay Rays. Following this brief memorial, Mariners vendors further paid tribute to Kaminsky by hurling ceremonial bags of peanuts into the crowd.
Yes.
Kaminsky memorabilia was displayed by the team in its baseball museum and Hall of Fame at Safeco Field for the duration of the 2011 campaign.
I think that's really cool.
Isn't that awesome?
It
They had
is
a moment of silence,
Yeah.
34 years of service, and they have a moment of silence at his passing and then hurl bags of peanuts into the crowd.
Kudos to the Mariners for being an organization that recognizes something like that. I think it's great. He was part of the show, Chad. I mean, you go to games and expect to him there.
Seth Colin of the Sunbreak said he talked quickly in a high-pitched, slightly nasally voice, and he didn't shy away from a little flirty talk with the ladies. He'd sometimes make comments that are not likely in the Mariners vendor handbook. Never lewd, mind you, but if you were following the thread, not G-rated either. Rick was an individual, and that's why he was beloved. Not the speed of his peanut throws, not his banter, not his 34 years of service. It's that he was unique. It's that he took something boring and made it into something joyful. That's called art, folks. He turned his job into art. What a great compliment that is.
And he did. That's true. I think it's wonderful.
I also read this quote, too, where he was a real estate broker when he wasn't working games. And someone asked him one time, like, well, why do you feel the need to go out and get a side gig? And he's like, hey, man cannot live on peanuts alone. That's what he said. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, the NBA draft. This quote was put out by Jeff Goodman, who is an NBA scout and expert. And he said multiple NBA execs say the same thing about this draft. It's the worst draft that they've ever seen. The upcoming
That takes
2024
in a lot
NBA
of
draft.
territory there.
And then I always think about, when I think of the worst drafts of my lifetime, I always go back to 1987, which was a disaster. But for GMs to collectively say that this is the worst draft they've ever seen, then it must be pretty bad.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there won't be stars in this draft, that there won't be good players, but from top down, they don't like a lot of what they've seen on tape
or in person.
or
Yeah.
in person.
Well, Chad,
What's your reaction when you first hear that, where you have NBA execs saying this is the worst draft ever?
I had heard that, and I think I mentioned it to you before that it's not predicted to be any good. Couple reactions. Number one, I think it's the fact that the first three players in all the mock drafts, or most of the mock drafts, are from outside this country. It just shows you that we're not producing an awful lot of good college players, draftable college players right here in this country. And everybody knows that. Our system's broken, our developmental system. Just that whole AAU thing's not working. And doesn't seem like anybody's going to do anything about it.
What was it
quick.
before AAU? Was it like high school, college, and then the NBA?
High school, college, and NBA, and 3 to usually 4 years in college. So you got pretty good coaching in college for 4 years. And of course, this was before all the restrictions on college coaching. Now you're limited on the number of hours you can practice. All those kinds of things are going on in college. In the old days, there was no limit. You practiced a lot, but still, college was producing players. I think high schools were churning out better players because they had their players all the time instead of running off in the summers to play for travel teams. So that has something to do with it. The other thing is, my take on it, Chad, is there are still players there. It's just harder to find them. You can't draw the number 1, 2, or 3 lottery ball and figure, wow, we got a player. Not necessarily so this time around. It's just as likely the guy chosen 5th or 6th could be the best player in the draft. Puts a lot of emphasis on your scouting system, your front office. Everybody that looks at these players is under more pressure this time because they're harder to find. And that's really what scouting's all about. If you're a scout, earn your money for us this year. Find us the player. This is not easy where everybody just tells you, oh, yeah, let's take Victor number 1. How's that sound? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, here's the setup. If you look at tankathon.com right now, Charlotte, right now, the 3rd team in the lottery, 18-57. San Antonio is tied, 18-57. And then Portland is sitting 1 game back, 19-56. So they're 1 game back in the loss column. Guess where Portland happens to play a basketball game tomorrow? They're in Charlotte to meet the Hornets.
Ooh. It's a Titanic.
It's a big-time game if you're talking about draft order because the Blazers still have an outside shot, a legitimate chance of getting up into the top 3, which gives them an equal chance to jump up and get the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alexander Sarr is the best player in the draft, and that's who I would like the Blazers to get their hands on. But that game tomorrow, in terms of draft positioning, is going to be critical. So it'll be fun to sit back and see what type of lineup Portland decides to put out there on the floor and how many minutes are doled out to certain players like, let's say, DeAndre Ayton, for instance. It should give us an idea of how important that positioning is for them. They're obviously aware. I just want to know how aware they are of where they sit and the opportunities that are in front of them. How do you think they'll approach the game tomorrow? They don't want to win that game, right?
I don't think either team does, which makes it harder to lose. You know, if they're trying to out-lose you. But, yeah, I would expect DeAndre Ayton to be on the injured list tomorrow. I would expect that because he gives them a chance to win, especially against Charlotte, I would think. And so you'd like to keep him out. You're not going to see the return of Malcolm Brogdon tomorrow night, I don't expect. Simons is out, correct?
Here's the injury report for tomorrow. It just came out. Brogdon, Kamara, Sharp, Simons, Thibault, and Williams all out. Grant and Minaya listed as doubtful. So DeAndre Ayton is not on the injury report. I saw him fall down at the end of the game on Monday when he missed that shot, and I thought, well, there's your opportunity to say he's got a contusion.
He's got 24 hours to come up with a sore back.
And I'm not even joking. Like, I would like to see Portland lose the game to have better draft position because I think in a draft like this, sitting at number 1 and having your pick of the litter would be a much better situation. But maybe this is where that synergy that exists between Cronin and Schmitz hopefully that will reap benefits, right? Because Schmitz pays attention to foreign guys. I mean, he's obviously got a good eye for talent in terms of what he's looking for. It would be nice to see Portland have a chance to at least pick the litter of this upcoming draft, which is considered to be weak.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not a great draft, you at least want a chance to get the best one you think is out there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think, too, Chad, what you say makes sense. It's just like it's been the last 2 seasons where there's really no incentive to win the game. You're not going to get in the play-in. That's long out of the picture. So the incentives are all on the side of losing the game, really.
Yeah.
What does winning do for you?
No, there's 7 games left in the season. Winning this game, there's no benefit to winning that game in Charlotte tomorrow. And at this stage of the season, like the Blazers have not tanked this year. They've just, as a result of the injuries and the guys who are out and the guys who they're playing, it's just not a very good basketball team. But at this stage of the season with 7 games to go, but put whatever lineup that you need to put out there to make sure that you get the proper result. That's the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Tanking or choosing to play younger players in a game to increase the likelihood that you lose, like, it doesn't bother me at all, especially at this stage of the season. I just think that draft position is critical because if you jump up into the top 3 in that lottery and you've got an equal chance to get number 1, that's not a bad scenario. They were 1 number off last year from getting Victor Wembanyama.
Mm-hmm.
So I at this point, increase your chances, and then you'll have your choice of who you think the best player is. And as you pointed out, when you go through this rebuild process, what you don't want to do is be a team like the Knicks or one of these other squads that have been up at the top of the draft order for years, but they miss on a few picks, and it sets them back.
In this situation, you cannot swing and miss. There can't be a whiff.
No.
You cannot swing him. You got to at least get a guy who's a rotation player, somebody who you can bring forward on your team competing for a playoff spot and can play a role. I mean, when you have a pick that high, it's got to be a guy who can play.
I mean, do you have a player in the draft right now that you think might be the best, or do you need more time to make a decision on that?
No, I think you're right. With everybody, and I usually wait to look at him, and there's a lot of video out there, and I will look. But Sarr is the guy so far that I hear the most people talking about. He appears to be the guy with a chance to come in and help you sooner and more long-term. He seems like he would be an NBA player for a while.
All right, but dicey.
Yeah, there's no sure things this time around.
Wembanyama was a sure thing, and it's proving out right now on the floor. The guy's a freak of nature.
Yeah, I think Miller was a bit of a sure thing, too. Not necessarily becoming a superstar, but he's a guy that you see shoot well enough and run and jump well enough that he's going to be in the league a while.
What I really would like to know is that if Portland were picking number 2 and not number 3, who would they have taken? Would it have been Scoot, or would they have taken Brandon Miller? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, that was a franchise changer because if you take Brandon Miller, then Damian Lillard might still be here, right?
Yes, it's quite possible. Brandon Miller's looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
He's looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
And Scoot, he's played better as the season's gone along, but as we've talked about, this is going to be the most important offseason in the history of his career. No
We're talking
question.
about needing to take a quantum leap.
Quantum leap. It's going to happen. Okay, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday at 5. Justin Myers, Rip City Morning, is going to stop by coming up next. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. You got the Rip City Drive. Godfather, there's a very simple way to my heart. And Justin Myers has figured out that formula because he put the staff in a real snafu with his last second vacation to wherever he went. We're going to find out in just a moment. And so, what he did when I came in his first day out, there was a stack of coffee here next to my Nespresso machine with a variety of different flavors. And he was doing it to make amends on the fact that he had put me and Chris Burkhardt in a bit of a bind. And so I just let the audience know that, look, if you ever need to make amends with me, the fastest way to my heart is very simply with delicious coffee. And Justin Myers was able to pull that off. That's an impressive move. And then I think he left tequila for Chris Burkhardt. That's how you take care of your people right there.
Huh.
I would expect nothing less from the classy Justin Myers, right? Nice work.
Golly. And I had heard that you threatened to kill him on the air.
Did I threaten to kill him?
That's what somebody told me. I don't know if that's true or not.
You know what? That irritates me. I'll tell you why. Because I had someone else call me up. Kenny Vance. He goes, yeah, I heard that you were talking about me on the show. And I'm like, yes. And for some reason, when people hear something on the radio, they never repeat exactly what they heard. They embellish, and then I have to explain, no, that's not what I said. Did you hear what I said? Did you listen? No, I didn't hear it. Someone told me. Yeah, go back and listen. Did I threaten homicide?
I didn't hear it.
Oh,
you
see,
did.
Same thing.
It was the greatest thing ever.
Oh, I did?
Okay. I wasn't going to rat.
Well, two people say it, then it must be true.
I wasn't going to tattle on him, but he's the one that told me, so I figured it was true.
Well, he delivered in tenfold with the coffee. He's awesome. He's the host of Rip City Mornings, and he's back. Justin Myers, what's up, brother?
I did not know you threatened to kill me on the air.
I didn't either, but I guess I did.
Come back in and take that coffee back.
Yeah, goodness sakes. How much have you already drank? I might take the rest of it back. I mean, I know there are some things that I do that drive you absolutely batty, and you have, and I understand that, sometimes, Chad, you can speak with emotion, but man, threatening to kill. Do we have to have an HR meeting? We already had the longest meeting maybe in the history of meetings earlier today.
It's been a while.
Do we need to have another one?
It's been a while since I've gone through the employee handbook. I'll have to double check on threats of homicide and whether or not that's inappropriate. But this stuff right here, I'm looking at crema. I don't know what crema is, and I don't know what scura is, but I know that crema scura coffee is delicious. Thank you very much. I've only got 2 pods left in this box, and it's been fabulous.
Well, I do appreciate both you and Chris covering for me. I mean, so I felt, yes, it's already, I already have just guilt not being on the show. And Chad and Dwight, you guys know this from being in the media business in general. There is no good time to take a vacation.
Yeah.
There just isn't. Yeah. And so I've been beaten down in the radio industry with such vacation shaming over the years that I have instant guilt anytime I take some time off. And then I put my coworkers, not really my bosses, but when I put my coworkers in a bit of a bind, because it's not like when, Carol from accounting goes on vacation. When we go on vacation, the show has to go on and somebody has to get up early and somebody's got to do it. And Chad and Chris both did that. And I was like, what's a nice token of my appreciation? And I knew with Chad, it would be some fancy coffee. I went out on a limb because I know your regular coffee. I even took notes to try to find it, but man, I don't know where you have to go to get that really fancy coffee that you have. So I took a risk, and I got some nice crema. What is it? Crema rosa? Is that what it's called?
Crema scura.
Scura, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I haven't heard from Chris yet, which maybe that tells me he really enjoyed that tequila because I haven't heard from him yet.
Yeah, no, I think he really did, man. It's great. So. All sins washed away. You're the man, and it's great to have you back on the show. I have a strong desire to ask you about the guy that married the congenital twins, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, but I'm tempted. But I want to start with this, with quarterbacks.
Okay.
In the draft. I think we all agree that Caleb Williams is probably the best draft prospect. But after that, how do you rank the quarterbacks? And if you don't have Caleb at 1, that's fine. But how do you rank the top 4 or 5 guys in your mind as we get ready for the draft now a month away?
I mean, I think Caleb, here's the problem with quarterbacks is that, I mean, the physical ability is one thing, but as we all know, the great quarterbacks have something special, whether it's Brady, whether it's Mahomes, right? Those great quarterbacks all have some kind of X factor. And sometimes you can see it in college and sometimes you can't. But until you get in the NFL, until you get TJ Watt or, Myles Garrett or these guys breathing down your neck, and you can make a completion on 3rd and 8. Like, we don't know if you're going to make it in the league. So I think basically you can only kind of go on physical ability. And Caleb Williams has the best physical ability of anybody. I was there at Autzen. I watched the game he played, and obviously Oregon was a better team and had more talent in all phases. But he made throws in that game that I haven't seen a college quarterback make. Now, I don't know if that translates to the NFL, but the physical ability that he has to throw off his back foot, to throw under duress, and just unbelievable arm strength. He's number one. I don't think it's particularly close. After that, it does get difficult. I think I'm coming around to Jaden Daniels at number 2, just because of being able to watch him over the years at Arizona State and seeing what he was able to do. And I think probably go Drake May at 3, and then I would put Bo Nix at 4. I think and I know there's a lot of people that are very high on J.J. McCarthy, but I am an Oregon homer. I am a Bo Nix fan. I watched Bo Nix make throw after throw after throw, deep throws, intermediate throws. I know he got labeled as kind of a check down Charlie, but I saw him make plenty of deep throws. I like Bo Nix at 4, and then probably J.J. McCarthy at 5. The tough part here is the Michael Penix thing, because Michael Penix was unbelievable in college. As a college quarterback, he might have been the best of all of them, but that many reconstructive surgeries on your knees and your shoulder going into the NFL is going to be a red flag. And I don't know if anybody can trust a first-round pick of somebody who's that kind of injury concern. So that's how I would rank them. And Penix, I would almost put as an asterisk, because I don't even think you can rank him because of the injury concerns.
Okay, Justin, as the Knicks homer, where should he land that gives him the best spot to succeed?
I think with Chad's Denver Broncos, I think that's the best place for him. I mean, I get the sense that once they gave up on Russell Wilson last year, that like Sean Payton wants to get back to give me a guy I can kind of start with and can coach him up my way. You know, they always talk about like experience is great, but the problem is sometimes experience, you kind of have your own built-in bad habits as opposed to no experience, which means you have no bad habits. I like him going to the Broncos. I think that might be a little bit early, but I think of all the spots out there, teams that are going to be looking at quarterbacks, Sean Payton in Denver, I think, is the best place for him.
We're talking with Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings here on the Rip City Drive. I agree with your assessment. You know, the Broncos for years, a disaster in terms of their coaching, but now with Davis Webb and Sean Payton, you develop a plan and you have a process to where you can help him improve instead of tossing him out on the field game one and expecting him to play well. And I think if he winds up in a situation where it is Sean Payton, then I think that's great. But I want to ask you about J.J. McCarthy. Dwight and I were talking about this. All the scouts and all the people around the NFL love J.J. McCarthy for a lot of different reasons. One, because he ran a pro-style offense. Two, because he knows how to make the throws over the middle, layered throws, and do all the things you need to do on 3rd down in the league. The problem is, you mentioned what you saw from Caleb Williams, and we agree. We saw that week in and week out because he had to play well and make big plays for USC to win. But with J.J. McCarthy, he threw 22 touchdown passes. We never saw him in a situation where he had to be the man.
I can't get over that Penn State game. And I know there was so much weirdness going on, right? Because Jim Harbaugh, I think that was the first game or maybe the second game of his suspension.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't there on the sidelines. The rumors were that he was sitting on the team bus and that the team chaplain was going back and forth from the team bus to the sideline. So obviously there was a weird, but the fact that Michigan in a tight game on the road against Penn State, a top 10 team, didn't throw the ball in the second half. I mean, I know it's like, well, they didn't have to throw the ball. They were dominating the line of scrimmage. If you've got a guy that's going to go and be successful in the NFL, at some point you're going to be able to trust him in that game to make a throw. That's the one thing with J.J. McCarthy. And I guess let me ask both of you guys, like, isn't the whole playing a pro-style offense a little bit overblown? Because you think, like, who are the best quarterbacks in the league right now, right? You've got Patrick Mahomes, didn't play in a pro-style offense. Justin Herbert didn't play in a pro-style offense. Josh Allen didn't play in a pro-style offense, and neither did Joe Burrow. Like, you look at the top-tier quarterbacks, not a lot of those guys are coming in a pro-style offense. I don't know how much of an advantage that would actually give you.
That's a great point.
All right, Justin, what are you hearing about Dylan Gabriel right now? What are your Duck contacts, the people around the program? What's the word on Dylan Gabriel as he prepares for a big season for the Ducks?
Well, I mean, Chad, here's the thing. It's spring, which means everything is good news, right? Unless there is an injury, there are no bad vibes in spring practice. Everybody looks great. Everybody, but I mean, from everything I've heard, and I really do try. I know I joke about being a Duck homer, but that is true. I really do try to like get the opinions of other people, of neutral observers, and from every outlet I have seen of guys that covered national college football is that Oregon getting Dylan Gabriel was a home run, and that he's going to fit right into that offense, and that he's with all that experience and it at Oklahoma and then moving up, that it should be a perfect fit. Here's the only concern I have is we have seen the success of the transfer portal at a lot of different places. And three guys that we just talked about, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Caleb Williams, all in the Pac-12, all having massive, massive success in the transfer portal. All three of those guys had one thing in common, though. They were a package deal with either an offensive coordinator or a head coach, right? Caleb Williams came over with Lincoln Riley. Bo Nix came over with Kenny Dillingham, who worked with at Auburn, and Michael Penix and Kalen DeBoer clearly had a history. And then we saw with DJU, when he didn't have a history with anybody at Oregon State, had a bit of a pedestrian average year last year in Corvallis. So that's the only concern I would have, is that Dylan Gabriel comes in without any prior knowledge or prior relationship with any coaches on staff, which we have seen that has been a big part, I think, of the success of the transfer quarterbacks.
Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about Duck basketball. You know, they had a great postseason run, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you weren't one of the people after Dana Altman's scalp, were you, towards the end of the season?
I wouldn't say, Dwight, I was after his scalp. I would admit, though, and I will admit that I was saying that it's fair to question whether or not Dana Altman is the answer. And then he went and made me look like an idiot, which is what he has done a bunch of times, because it it's really hard as a fan to kind of just expect that, you know what, they're going to figure it out in March and they're going to go on a run, right? That, I mean, that is a hard sell to a fan base. And the reason why I said the conversation about Dana Altman and his fit at Oregon needs to be had is that the culture around there, they're not selling Matthew Knight Arena out very well. It's the arena is not packed. There isn't a buzz around Oregon basketball. Dana Altman isn't particularly interested in being kind of that sales guy and kind of being that that flashy coach. He just wants to coach his team. And so I wondered, if you were staring down three straight NITs, which if they didn't win the Pac-12 tournament, they were going to the NIT 3 years in a row. Ticket sales are down. The transfer portal, the NIL, doesn't seem to be working out as well as you thought it would. I thought it was fair to have the conversation. And then Dana Altman went and does what Dana Altman does, which is go to the Pac-12 tournament, rattle off 3 wins in a row, boom, win in the first round, which he wins every year in the first round, and was a double overtime win or double overtime loss away from making, again, another Sweet 16, which is probably somewhere in the top 10 best finishes in Oregon basketball history. So I wasn't in the fire Dana Altman, but I was in the maybe we should have a conversation about this. And then he went and made a run in the postseason and made me and the rest of those the fire Dana Altman people look really stupid.
All right, Justin, I got to ask you this question about Otani. What does your gut tell you? Was it the interpreter who stole the money? Was it Otani who was placing the bets using his interpreter? Or was the interpreter placing the money and the story that he originally told the investigative reporter true, that Otani had originally agreed to pay off his debts? What do you think happened?
All right. I do not live in the world where my friends make $700 million. All right. I don't live in that world. I also don't live in the world where I am such an atrocious gambler that I rack up $4.5 million in debt. So all that being said, I don't live in that world. I can't for the life of me figure out how either A, the interpreter ran up such a debt with a bookie, because again, sports betting is not legal in California like it is here. So working with a bookie, how you can run up a $4.5 million debt unless a bookie was like, If Shohei says you're good for it, then we'll continue to give you credits, which tells me Shohei knew more. And then the other part of it is either, let's just say the interpreter ran up a $4.5 million bet betting international soccer and football is what they said, or Shohei was betting. I cannot imagine a world where you have that kind of bad luck betting and that kind of losing streak that you are chasing over and over and over again, that you don't turn and bet on baseball, because that's the biggest deal here. If those guys were betting on college football with a bookie, that's a 1, maybe 2-day story, right? And people will get over it because it's legal someplace. But if they were betting on baseball, well, now we got a whole new can of worms. And I don't know how you can have that kind of bad luck, whether you are Ohtani or whether you are his interpreter, and you don't turn and decide, maybe let's throw a little money down on baseball. I don't know how you can have that kind of discipline when you have racked up that kind of debt, especially when you are either A, the pitcher, or B, because his interpreter is in the dugout. He's on the mound during visits, right? He knows everything. I don't understand how you can rack up that kind of money in debt and not at some point turn and bet on baseball. And I bet even if they did, none of us are going to find out about it because Ohtani is such a cash cow for Major League Baseball.
All right, Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings. You're back in the saddle, my friend, back from vacation. That is terrific. And thanks for the coffee, man. Thanks for making amends.
Hey, always here to keep the harmony, even when coworkers threaten to kill me on live radio. What do you think it was that I said? Because I say so many things where you'd be like, I could kill that guy. I wonder what it is I said.
I have no idea. I say a lot of crazy things on the radio every day, so I have no idea. I honestly don't even remember it. That's the best part, and I'm not even lying. I don't remember saying that. But Shacker always picks up on the things I don't want him to pick up on, and if he remembers it, he's got a memory like an elephant, so it probably did happen.
You were really tired that day.
There you
It
go.
was a Blazer game day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Blazer game day. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, maybe it was my mishandling of station equipment.
No, hey, the mic stand, it's early, but so far the mic stand has been replaced because of your aggressiveness. It looks really good. Nice work. Your self-imposed ban has been great.
I want to get one of those signs that's like that, the numbers flip and be like, we have had 17 days without a mic stand incident with Justin Myers and Rip City Mornings.
That's
and
right.
we'll just try to keep that streak going, because safety, Chad, is no accident.
All right, you're the man, dude. Enjoy it. We'll talk soon.
All right, you guys are the best.
There you go. Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings here on the Rip City Drive. I agree with him. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be fabulous in a Duck uniform. Loved him at Oklahoma. He was awesome. Highly productive.
Yeah.
Accurate, smart. He's just one of those guys where when you got a team that's ready-made to go out and compete for a championship, it's nice to be able to plug in a guy with that type of experience. One advantage of the portal there.
Yeah, I think he made a great point about betting baseball. If you get in that deep, the temptation would be, I got to bet on something I know a little more about than European soccer. That's not going so well for me.
Well, I can only speak for myself. As an addict, if you believe or have information that would lead you to believe that you can win, you're not going to stop. You're not going to stop because you're an addict. Oh, wait. What'd you say about that game? Oh, interesting.
Well, you're not going to stop, especially if you have that much money to lose, and it's really not that. If you're him, like you said, $700 million, what's $4 million?
Well, that's why it's going to take this investigation a long time, but it'll be interesting to see what pops up 6 months, 8 months down the road as this continues. And they start digging through this guy's bookkeeping.
Yeah.
About the bets that were made. There's got to be some type of record, and then you get an idea of what was going on. That would be a game changer. I'd like to see baseball try and cover that one up if Shohei or his interpreter were betting on baseball games.
They'll try really hard to cover it up. That's for sure.
No question. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. A pair of tickets for the Blazers and Warriors. We'll give those away coming up at 5. All right, Godfather. Shohei Ohtani he's been all right so far for the Dodgers this year. His
Yeah.
batting average is right around his career average, just under 300, about 270. And I guess the only thing missing are the bombs or the home runs that we expected to see. The great thing is about the Dodgers, their lineup is so deep that it doesn't matter. They can still win games even if Shohei is, getting off to a slower start. I guess here would be the big question with Shohei Ohtani when it comes to the Dodgers. I want to know what you think about this. Do you think that this investigation is it something that's going to pass and Shohei Ohtani over the next couple of weeks is going to catch fire? Or is this something that could linger a bit to where it could impact his performance, where he's focusing on just one aspect of his game this year, which is hitting?
I think, Chad, what people are watching right now is to see if it is bothering him. When you look at him as a person, it's my understanding everybody raves about him, his character, his integrity, good man, gets along well with people, keeps to himself, but good teammate. You don't hear anything bad about his habits or anything else. You hear nothing but positive stuff. If he's that guy and he gambled or he paid the debts and he's got this guy going to prison for him, I think a good person would be very bothered by that, even though that's what's saving the golden goose. That's what is going to allow him to take care of the interpreter after he gets out of whatever punishment it is. And it's also going to help save baseball in regard to his appearance in baseball is huge. So you could understand the conflict he might be in right now of just breaking down and being honest about the whole situation. Can I just tell everybody what happened and take my punishment? Or am I just going to let this guy, dangle in a tree somewhere, hung up on my lies?
Yeah, to your point, if that is the case, and that's what's happening, where this guy is falling on the sword for Ohtani, these guys, it's not just an interpreter baseball player relationship. These guys run deep. They've been friends for an extended period of time. They're super close and have a great connection. So you're right. If you were throwing a close friend under the bus to protect your name, and he was the one who had to deal with all the fallout, it would have an impact on you, you would think, especially for someone like you mentioned with his character.
Yeah, you'd almost have to be a sociopath of some sort not to let that bother you. to burn a friend for your own sake. That's bad news stuff there. That's not good.
Well, 7 games, 8 games into the season, that's not enough of a sample size, right? How long of a sample do you need in baseball? Every sport's different, but how long is it in baseball before you get an idea or a trend of what's happening?
They like to say 100 at bats, which is like a fifth of the season. You hear that occasionally. Maybe more than that. Maybe, let's say, 50 games, a third of the way through. It's hard. It's impossible to tell now. All it does is make you think about it when he gets off to a slow start. And I say slow start. He's hitting as well. He's not hitting the home runs. He doesn't have the worry of pitching anymore. And that's the thing. People thought they'd see more of him at the plate without the pitching to divide his attention. He can spend more time in the batting cage. He can focus more on hitting, maybe studying more on the pitchers he's going to be facing. All of that went into the idea, I think, that he'll be a better hitter now that he's not having to pitch. So, yeah, I think people are going to be studying how he does and wondering if this whole thing is impacting him.
The lineup they put out last night against the Giants, and they won the game 8-3. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, 1, 2, 3 in the order. Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, who's gotten off to a decent start, James Outman, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux. It's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
What a great team for him to be on if he is going through a bit of a slump as he's trying to figure it out, to know that these other guys are going to pick you up.
Chad, the other thing is their front office does a great job of filling the roster up with really talented, versatile role players. They've done that now for years. You got multiple position guys. Muncy, not a great defender, but he can be a not so good defender at several positions, which you can move him around. Taylor the same way. They're just a great roster. and they call on people all the time to do the things they do well, and their pitching's always solid. They've got great guys they call up from the minor leagues. If they don't, they trade for good ones, and they got a couple good ones on the injured list right now that'll probably be pitching at some point during the season.
Yeah, James Paxton did well last night. Got his first win, 5 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts.
That's what you expect from today's starting pitcher.
Yeah.
5 innings of shutout ball. Okay, we'll just go from there and turn it over to the bullpen, and their bullpen's pretty good.
Well, I'm anxious to see how things develop. I want to see Otani as the season moves along. I just like watching him play. The guy's a dynamo. He's a freak.
Yeah, and we should say you plan to see him. You're going across country to see him this year.
Yeah, New York City, Yankees, Dodgers at the beginning of June. 3-game set Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It doesn't get any better than that, Chad. That's a great choice. That is a great choice.
Leave on Thursday, coming back on Tuesday. So I'm giving myself time to
Mhm.
check out some of the city. I got my hotel, which was not, shall we say, economical. So we're going to head, I'm going to be staying right off of Times Square. So I'll be right there in the heart. So it's just a matter of walking down, easy access to the train, straight shot up to the Bronx for the games.
Mhm.
And the tour of Yankee Stadium, which I'm excited about, because now I'm into the tour thing. So every year when I visit a new stadium, I like to do the tour.
Mm.
Dodger Stadium last year was cool. Coors Field the year before was great, and this year will be Yankee Stadium. The tour tickets at Yankee Stadium were not economical as well. It's like, are you kidding me?
How much?
Cost me more to get in for the tour than it did for my ticket for the game, if you can believe that.
Huh.
The tour lasts for a couple of hours, but also gives you
Wow.
early access into the park. I think it was like 125 plus the convenience fees that they like to tag on
Yeah.
the things.
That's New York for you. Yeah, but Monument Park, you'll get plenty of time to linger there.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
And I've never have you. Well, you've only been. Was that the only time you went? Was when we were at Yankee Stadium?
No, I covered World Series there, a couple World Series there, and then that playoff series between the Mariners and the Yankees.
Yeah.
Which started in New York. So, yeah, I've had a chance to see most everything there, including the Yankee clubhouse and press box and all that. Hopefully, you'll see that when you take the tour.
Yeah.
I would think.
That's awesome. So I'm looking forward to that.
Isn't that? It's such a huge ballpark. It's just big.
Massive.
Yeah, the whole structure is huge. That's what struck me. I was at the old Yankee Stadium and the new one. The new one is just a bigger structure, huge grandstands. What a! I mean, it's so big. It's almost too big.
All right, we'll come back, and we got Trailblazer tickets. It's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. These tickets are for the Warriors and Blazers coming up at Moda Center. Your chance to win's coming up next. All right, this just in, according to ESPN, 12.3 million viewers for last night's game in women's college basketball, Iowa and LSU. The Final Four is set for Saturday, Glendale, Arizona. It kicks off just after 3, in-state, NC State and Purdue, followed by Alabama and UConn. The Boilermakers favored by 8.5. The UConn Huskies an 11.5-point favorite. Your Portland Trailblazers will continue their road trip tomorrow in Charlotte. They'll take on the Hornets. Tip-off is at 4. Game day starts at 1:30. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday is coming up next. We're going to play Name That Tune. We have a pair of tickets for the Warriors and Blazers. And the Mariners take on the Guardians tonight from T-Mobile Park. First pitch at 6:40. Luis Castillo gets the call for the Mariners. You like the Talking Heads, Godfather?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
All right, we're going to play Name That Tune for the Warriors and Trailblazer tickets. If you've listened to the show before, you know how it works. I'm going to play a snippet of a song, in this case, 2.1 seconds. And what I need is the name and artist of the song. And the first person with the correct answer will get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Warriors. Get a chance to see Steph Curry on display at Moda Center. First person with the correct answer, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And I think we did 9 to 5 last week with Dolly Parton. I thought that was going to be difficult for people. The phone lines lit up, and every single person that called in, like 15 to 20 deep, all had the correct answer. Every single one, Shacker. There wasn't one wrong answer from anyone who called.
Was that like the biggest song from the 80s that you chose?
It's not that big. It was a big song and a big hit, and Dolly Parton's a superstar, but I just was surprised because I didn't give that much of the song, but it's such a recognizable tune that I think people are able to grab onto it pretty quick. Telephone number 503-248-0620. So first person, correct answer, gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Warriors. What is the name and artist of this song right here? 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You familiar with that song, Godfather?
I'll tell you, I wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get that
I
one?
wouldn't get that one. No. I think it's a tough one, Chad. But I say that every time, and somebody just pops right up and gets it.
That's true. A lot of these songs, too, it depends on the decade that you were born in.
Yeah.
And what was on airplay when you were at a certain age, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That has a tremendous impact on youngsters. Or what type of music your parents listened to when you were growing up, too.
That's a big factor.
I would guess for you, when you were younger, you ended up listening to a lot of what your mom and dad wanted to listen to.
Glenn Miller.
Nana was a huge fan of Glenn Miller.
Hell yeah.
I've got some Glenn Miller in my rotation, too.
I do, too. It's really smooth, nice stuff.
All right. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Name and artist of that song right there. Name and artist of the song, 503-248-0620. First person with the correct answer gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Warriors at Moda Center. 503-248-0620.
Man, this is going to be harder than winning $1 billion Powerball.
I guess. 503-248-0620. Interesting. Very interesting. Nice to see Joel Embiid back.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's back because that will bring a little more intrigue to the Eastern Conference playoff race.
I hope he holds up. You know, this was kind of a dicey treatment path that they chose for him without the surgery and just resting it, doing some rehab. I hope he holds up.
He was playing such great basketball before the injury, too.
Yeah.
Do you think that layoff, how much will that layoff, assuming he can stay healthy, how much will the layoff impact him going into the postseason?
Oh, well, probably not much. Maybe his three-point shooting a little bit. But, you know, he has his post game that he can rely on, and he's a good passer. They play off him well. He's a factor in the playoffs. I like that part of it.
Yeah.
You know, now the Eastern Conference has gotten a little more interesting.
2 weeks left in the season. He might need a little bit more time than that to get
Yeah.
up to the conditioning necessary for the playoff grind.
But they can probably get through a first round series with him being not quite himself.
All right, let's go out to Tualatin. Let's bring on David. David, appreciate the phone call. Welcome to the Rip City Drive. What's up?
How you doing, Chaz?
I'm very well. Are you ready to play a little Name That Tune?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to play a clip. Take a listen to this. All right, what is the name and artist of that tune right there, David?
It's My Life by a song, Talk Talk.
All right, let's check the tape. All right, David, you are the winner, my friend, which means you get a pair of tickets courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers to see the Warriors and Blazers at Moda Center. And, of course, for all your Trailblazer ticket needs, simply go to trailblazers.com. Nice work, my friend.
All right, Chad. Thank you.
You got it, buddy. There you go. We're going to put you on hold, and Michael Shacker will get all of the appropriate information.
All right, another great show. Thank you.
You got it.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. You could have played the whole song, and I don't think I would have gotten it. Who's it by? Talk Talk?
Yep. Talk Talk. They're more of a one-hit type wonder from the 80s.
Yeah.
But that song was big time.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with Talk Talk.
There you go. That's true. A lot of bands, I don't know the name, but I know the song if I hear it. But you had never heard that song before.
I don't think I might have heard it, but I wouldn't.
You don't recognize
I
it.
wouldn't have known it. Yeah. You hear so many. If you listen to Yacht Rock, man, it's full of one-hit wonders, isn't it?
Yeah, what I've been doing lately, because Yacht Rock Radio has a certain play pattern in terms of the songs they
rotation.
play. So I've been using the auxiliary station Yacht Rock Deep Cuts. And, I went on that road trip on Sunday. I took Isaac and I went up to Seattle.
Yeah.
So on the way up and on the way back, I was listening to the Deep Cut station. So they play like side B type stuff, some songs that didn't get heavy radio play. So, of course, I am Shazamming everything and adding it to my database because there were a number of songs I had not heard before that I'm like, oh, that's a new one. That's a new one. And that's my whole process right now for music is I am going back and re-listening to all these artists I grew up with, but I'm digging in deeper to the albums now to discover songs that I didn't listen to when I was younger that are really good. And so to me, it's like new music. And so I continue to add that to my rotation because I'm concerned about the future of music and the fact that we're not going to have new artists coming along where you're like, oh, I've got to have that.
That's where vinyl comes in really handy, listening to the whole album.
Yes.
There's a bunch of that stuff where I'm a big fan of that group, but there's songs on those albums I've never heard them do.
I agree. All right, let's talk about this. Kim Mulkey, the head coach at LSU, she's controversial because of the way she carries herself.
Yeah.
She grew up as a very conservative woman, and she's coached mostly at conservative universities, especially at Baylor, which is I think a Baptist school. So the Washington Post came out, and it got attention because Mulkey tried to get out ahead of the piece that she knew was coming out because she feared it was going to be a hit type piece. And so I think a lot of people wondered, like, why is she coming out ahead of the story hitting? What is she trying to hide? What is she trying to get away from? So when the story dropped, I was curious to see what the reaction would be and then to go through and read it myself and then see what they uncovered. And I went through and made the effort to read through it last night.
It's long, right?
I think it's like 6,500 words.
Yeah.
It's
I've
insane.
seen snippets, but I haven't read the whole thing.
Yes, it took a while to work through. And it lays out the entire history of, where she came from, where she grew up, her family situation, where she went to college, how she got into coaching. It talks about her family dynamics and how she's estranged from her family, her marriage that ended in divorce, and all the different things that are going on, her different stops along the way and so forth. And, she's had a chance to coach many prominent lesbian players throughout the course of her coaching career. And what it seemed to me was that the story was trying to almost paint her in a picture of being like a homophobic type coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they never made that connection. And so it seemed like a hit piece, but it really wasn't because there wasn't that big thud. And it didn't hit with any.
They didn't have a smoking gun on that.
No.
Nobody admitted that they thought that or whatever.
No. So really what you came away from is that she's a demanding, win at all costs, crazy basketball coach. And she knows
Aren't
what it
they
takes to
all?
win.
Yeah.
She has a plan. She demands a lot from her players, and she wants to win badly. And so I read through that. I'm like, okay, let me go through some of the coaches I grew up with: Bobby Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, Jerry Sloan, Phil Jackson, and just go down the line.
Mhm.
All the great coaches, Tom Izzo, they're all tyrants.
Yeah. Oh, Izzo is still, he's a crazy man, really.
Yeah. All of these coaches, the great ones who win, most of them are disciplinarian, do it my way or no way at all. And they demand greatness from their players in practice, in games, and the whole gamut, right? So I just really believe that if she were a man and not a lady, that she wouldn't even be a blip on the radar because people would consider it like, yeah, that's just Coach K being Coach K. But in her case, because she's conservative and because her politics don't match up with what could be or what mostly is a left-leaning media most of the time, or in
Mhm.
most cases,
Mhm.
I think that they're looking to take shots at her. You know, she pushed back against COVID and some of these other big political items, and I think there were people that didn't like that, and so they're looking for a way to knock her down. That's kind of how. That's the way it felt to me. That's
Yeah.
the way I read it.
Well, here's my take, Chad. You know, I have criticized her sideline demeanor at times, just like I criticize Knight, Krzyzewski, Izzo, and all those people. I think they set a bad example sometimes for their teams and their fans, and they incite their fans sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've seen this from the start with her, she gets a bad rap for behaving the same way that those men do. But because she's a woman and because she's coaching women, it's like, well, she's not very quote unquote ladylike.
Yeah.
That's what she's getting. And that's just BS. I'm sorry. That's a no-go for me. I think she's exactly like a whole lot of men's coaches. And granted, I'm old school. I had more of a time with coaches like Bob Knight than you did. Football coaches and basketball coaches. Football coaches in the old days, Chad,
Crazy.
they were horrible. No water breaks. Remember that? Did you ever hear about? Oh no,
Yeah.
no water during practice,
And
and
Vince
it's like
Lombardi
90
was
degrees.
Yeah, Vince Lombardi was known to treat his players. Well, they talked about it like dogs.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
treats us all like dogs.
yeah, yeah. He treats us all the same, like dogs. Yeah, that was the way you did it. Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, all those guys. That's the way they were. That's how you coach football. And so many basketball. Dick Harder at Oregon, Kamikaze Kids. Holy cow. He was embarrassed till his dying day about how bad he treated and how bad he acted. He tripped a cheerleader running around the floor at Gill Coliseum holding a trophy. Dick reached his foot out and tripped the guy. I mean, this is the kind of behavior that college coaches have had for decades. And she's being criticized, I think, unfairly simply because she's a female.
Yeah, I agree. I think her main job is to win basketball games.
Yeah.
And she understands that. And so she is laser focused on doing whatever it takes to win, pushing her ladies to the extreme. Because a lot of these great players, they need a great coach to push them beyond what they think they can do to achieve the type of greatness. And so she is incredibly demanding and she's laser focused on winning and is going to do whatever it takes. She's not in a beauty pageant or trying to be best friends with everyone. She wants to do it her way.
See, she doesn't really care if they like her or not.
She couldn't care less.
Yeah, and I have to say, I admire that because there are too many coaches today who do care about that, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They'll respect you after they're done with you if you get the most out of them and if you win. That's what really matters.
Isn't that really what players care about the most? Is someone that can push them to be great
Yeah.
and lead them on the path to winning?
I tell you all the time, nobody wants to play defense. You have to make them play defense. That's part of this. It really is.
I actually thought she was fairly tame last night on the sideline.
Yeah. Yeah. She shows a lot of anguish toward her players at times. You know,
There were a couple of bad shots put up last night.
eyeballs up in her head, but yeah.
Interesting.
Very well dressed last night, by the way, too, for her. She sometimes shows up in a clown suit, but I thought last night was very businesslike.
I like her, man. I think she's cool. She's crazy, but cool.
I know you like her.
I mean, that's a woman that's in control. She is in control of what's going on.
Yeah. You like that, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I'm down with Coach Mulkey. What can I say? But I mean, from what I've learned from the players I've talked to, like they don't want a Bob Knight that's going to physically assault them. Like he
Right,
crossed
right.
the line.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Yeah,
No.
but a coach that demands your best
Yeah.
and makes sure that he'll do whatever it takes to make sure you get to that point. They do respect that because they want to be great, you know. And a lot of those players are used to being coached hard. It's changing now, but yeah, she coaches hard. I mean, like they described the way they described her in the article was exactly how you would describe any of those coaches you just named. It's like, yeah, that's Tom Izzo, Coach K, all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Demanding, difficult to deal with.
Yeah. No excuses.
No excuses.
Yeah.
They're not going to pat you on the back all the time and say, oh, you gave your best. That's not how that's going to work for some of those guys. The top line coaches. Can you think of a top line successful coach that wasn't a bit of a tyrant? John Wooden?
Oh, he was too.
He was a tyrant,
Oh,
right?
yeah. There's a lot that went on behind the scenes there. No, he was able to protect his image, but he was rough on those guys.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. Rip City Drive. Here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, Godfather, how about that number? 12.3 million viewers for the LSU Iowa game last night. That is a massive number. It's huge.
Largest number in women's basketball history. Bigger than, I think, all but one of the NBA Finals games last year, and bigger than all the World Series games, bigger than all but about 4 college football games. It's a huge number.
It's really big. It's incredible. More people watched the LSU Iowa women's basketball than the NBA Finals last year. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, the fact that they're pulling in that many viewers for one game is great.
Yeah.
And the men's college basketball, the tournament so far this year, the ratings have been huge, massive numbers. And the NBA right now continuing to have ratings issues. And it's not just one thing for the NBA, it's a variety of different things, whether it's load management or some of the decisions over the last few years by the commissioner. Like, they've got a lot of issues right now. But that's great for women's college basketball. I heard people project it would probably be 6 to 7 million, and they come out with a 12.3. That's incredible. But that's great. That's star power.
Yeah, and you got to understand too, they're doing it without the publicity blitz that March Madness gets. They're not really March Madness. It's the women's tournament, and the anticipation hasn't been building as long.
Yeah.
And you talk about star power. 2 months ago, Caitlin Clark, she was building up a following. I don't know that it was star power even 2 months ago. This has just been building and building and building on itself. And the buzz it created has been very unusual.
What a great season she's had, and she's been big time all year. I just continue to think, like, that's what stars do. They step up on that stage when everyone's watching, and you perform. And she was incredible last night. Hit every big shot that was needed. Every time LSU made a run, she would come back with a dagger three. They were plus 24 at the three-point line last night.
Yeah.
That's a big number to overcome in basketball.
I was surprised at how inept LSU was from three. I thought they had more shooters than that.
No, they're more of an inside type game.
Yeah.
And when you have to match someone like Caitlin Clark who's on fire, that's tough to overcome.
And Angel Reese was missing a lot of puppies inside that she usually hits, a lot of little layups and putbacks. First half, she was fine. I thought second half, especially, she might have gotten a little bit tired.
Yeah, she works a lot harder than you would think. I mean, she was banging down low. I think she pulled down 20 rebounds. Like, she's out there doing a lot of dirty work in there for that team.
That's a war inside. In the women's game, it's very physical.
And that's going to be the problem for Iowa moving forward. Anyone playing South Carolina, like if you watch the Lady Beavs play this past weekend on Sunday, the problem is against South Carolina, if you don't make a shot, you're probably not going to get the rebound. And they're great on the offensive glass, too. So South Carolina can have a poor shooting game, but they get so many second-chance point opportunities, it doesn't matter. Because their size, it's tough to deal with. They just gobble up rebounds.
Yeah.
And they're physical.
I think they're also really aggressive. That's what impresses me about South Carolina. They've taken on the Dawn Staley personality. She was people talk about all-time great players. She was an incredible point guard in college. Oh, my. And for the Olympic team.
I know everyone complains about the Lakers and the big-name brands in the NBA getting the benefit of the doubt with the whistle.
Yeah.
My guess is Iowa will continue to get the benefit of the doubt with the whistle.
Yeah. That's going to be a big part of that game. Getting fouls on them.
Yeah. You put a hand on Caitlin Clark right now, you're probably going to get the whistle.
By the way, I was going to say this, too, about Dawn Staley. If there's going to be a female NBA coach, that's who it's going to be.
You think it could be her?
Oh, I think so. Because
is she tough enough to deal with some of the nonsense she would get from the NBA players?
She has the personality. She'd fight one of them. I mean, she's tough. She's come up that way. She's a battler. She takes no gas off anybody. She's really a unique personality. And I think she's one who could handle this much better than some of the other names that have been thrown around.
Okay, here's my question for you, because I've talked to players over the years to kind of get their feel on what that would be like to have a female coach. And most of the guys I've talked to said that in the locker rooms they've been in, they didn't think that would play particularly well.
Right.
So what would be the best way to be the first team to do that? Is it with a veteran team? Is it with a young team? You would obviously have to give full support to the coach and let it be known that we stand behind her 100% and allow her time to get her system in and do what she does, because my guess is you'll get complaints from players early on, but you got to be able to stand by it. So what do you think is the best type of situation if you want to go in that direction to bring in a Staley or another top-line female coach?
I don't know if it matters, young team or old team. I don't know. I think the big key is your superstars have to be sold on her. That's what has to happen. If you've got a couple of superstars on your team, before you hire her, you've got to get her together with them and find out what kind of rapport there is. And then you talk to those superstars. Because if they're backing her,
that's all that matters.
She's got it made. There's no second-year player who's going to argue with the likes of one of these NBA superstars. If they say she's the coach, believe me, everyone will fall into line. And I think that's the best chance. It's also good to have been a player herself that players recognize as somebody who's done it on a big stage like the Olympics, like in college, winning championships, somebody who's paid their dues coaching, and somebody who can impress them one-on-one with what she knows and how she's going to coach. Because I think they want tough coaching too. NBA players do want that. They sometimes won't admit it.
From someone that they respect.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They have to respect you first. But I think she has the personality to sit in a meeting with the likes of, I don't care, name a superstar. Giannis. She can sit in that meeting with Giannis and say, here's how you're going to be coached. Here's what I expect from you. And this is the way it's going to be for you, okay? And I think if they hear the right message, they'll go along with it.
Interesting. I was talking with someone because I was always miffed at the beginning of the year. I was like, why did the Bucks hire Adrian Griffin? That didn't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
Well, from the people I've spoken with, it's because Giannis wanted him to be the coach.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to what you said. The superstar wanted Griffin, so they hired Griffin. It just didn't take him long and the players long to figure out that, it's not the right guy.
And believe me, Chad, it's going to be really hard for a woman to do that job. Just as hard or harder than it is for the female officials in the league. The female referees have it really tough. They get no respect. I don't think they do. I see it. I've seen it for years now. A lot of them don't last as long as they need to really start getting playoff games and getting respect and everything, because they just, after a while, they get tired of the abuse.
Who was it I read? I heard an interview recently with Shmush Parker, who played point guard for the Lakers, and Kobe despised him as a teammate because he wasn't very good. Well, I like Shmush, but what I didn't know is that he's going through the training ground right now to become an NBA official. And I thought, that's kind of cool. Former player, putting in the work and doing it the right way, wanting desperately to become an official. I was just wondering if you have an advantage as a former player to go to that level and be able to officiate an NBA game, or is it difficult no matter what your background is? I was curious about that.
I don't think it helps you at all. And I would.
Would it hinder you? I mean, you've talked to some of these officials before.
No, it wouldn't hinder you. I'm just trying to. There's a former NBA player refereeing now, and I'm an idiot because I can't remember his name, and he's been refereeing in the league for about 30 years. He was actually on the Olympic team. He was an All-American in college. Nobody knows he was that good a player because he really wasn't. But let me find him here. And there's people out there yelling at the radio who know who it is. And
is it Bernie Fryer?
No. Bernie.
Is it Workman?
Bernie was a player in the NBA who refereed. He played for the Blazers for a while.
Is it Haywood Workman?
No. Hayward was also a player. No, it's somebody who's been around longer than those guys. He played at Cal Poly, I think.
I don't know who it is, but if the name pops in your head, please share.
I'll have it in just a second. I just need.
Do you think an NBA team will eventually hire a female coach? Is it going to happen at some point in the future? What's preventing it from happening?
Players.
So
Players who have openly objected to it.
they're not going to say it publicly, but behind the scenes, when asked about it, they're like, I'm not going to play for
Well,
that
Chad,
person.
you know what I know.
Yes.
And yeah, players have objected. They've made it known to the front office. I'm not going to play for her. Not going to do it.
And then at that point, you're like, okay, we'll go in a different direction.
Yeah, especially
Because you
if
need the support of your star players.
if they're really good players.
Is it Eric Lewis?
No,
That's great.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Do.
I know. I'm sorry. I should. It's a name I should know because I've been railing on him for years for being a former player and not really understanding the game very well.
Oh,
but
so he's not doing a good job as being an official then.
no, it's
So
not a
he
good
fits
official.
right in with the rest of the buffoons that are out there
don't
trying to
think
call
he's
games.
He's never.
How many
I've-
NBA officials do you actually respect for the work that they do? Are there any officials right now where you're like, hey, that guy does a pretty good job?
There's some. There's probably. I think there's a good 6 or 7 officials who are solid, but you have to understand. They're not going to get them all right. They're going to make some bad calls. It's just an impossible game to referee.
Well, the college officiating is awful too, I've noticed, through
it's
the
the
tournament and
worst.
stuff. I have no idea what they're doing.
I got it.
You got it?
Leon Wood.
That's why I just asked you if Leon Wood was one of them.
When? I didn't hear you say Leon
I did.
Wood.
I said, is it Bernie Fryer or Leon Wood?
Oh, yeah. Bernie Fryer and Leon Wood both played.
And Workman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Leon was a really good college player, and he was actually the 12th man on an Olympic team, but at that level, not a very good player.
I honestly don't remember Leon Wood as a player, so I didn't know that. But I know who he is. I recognize him when he's on the floor. I just didn't know he played basketball.
He's been in the league for like 3 decades, and he can't get above like the number 2. I don't know if he's ever been a lead official. I don't think. Which is
How hard is it to go through that program to become an official?
they're tough. It's tough, but it's funny because I think
Is that one of those deals where you have to know someone to get an opportunity to do that?
Well, it helps because you're seeing now a lot of like sons of former referees
Yeah.
involved. You're seeing a lot of that.
Well,
which-
even Donaghy's father was a longtime official
yeah,
too.
yeah, and a lot of those guys came out of Philadelphia, which is where he came out of too. And there was a real. At one point, they were getting their buddies in, and that's where Joey Crawford's from that area too. And Joey was working development in Las Vegas the last time I saw him, and I asked him about the female officials, and he looked at me and he said, "Honest to God, 3 of our top 5 here right now are females." Said they're really good, and they're in the league now, but I don't know how well received, and we've yet to really see them make that climb in the playoff ladder. That's where you find out who the good ones are. Guys who make the NBA finals.
Or at least who the NBA thinks are good officials.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the guys who
Yeah.
carry water for the NBA.
Well, that's my whole point. Whoever the NBA considers good officials based on who's doing the playoff games, that doesn't tell me they're great at what they do. It just means that they do what the NBA wants them to do.
Right. And I know a lot of these guys pretty well. And the biggest complaint they have, Chad, is being evaluated by people who have never officiated and don't really know how to do it. But they hire these Ivy League guys. They're the ones that study the tape, do the last 2-minute reports and all that stuff. And they really have no experience. They don't let the officiating supervisors, and you hear their names on television all the time, they don't let them do that grading all the time.
Yeah.
Those are done by outsiders because they want unbiased, theoretically unbiased, not guys who are former partners of those referees doing it. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, from some of the balls and strikes I've seen so far early in the baseball
oh,
season,
gosh,
we are not far from the robot.
Oh, that
Those guys are idiots.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I know if the umpires don't want the robots, then call the pitches right. You're bringing it on yourselves. There was one.
It's an embarrassment,
Oh
Godfather.
my gosh!
Right down the middle, ball. And we're seeing this now on a
Max
regular basis.
Fried in the first inning is out of the inning, no runs, bases loaded, 2-2 pitch, right down the middle, and about 9 inches from being high. Ball 3. He walks a guy, gives up a hit. all of a sudden, he's taken out after giving up 3 or 4 runs in the first inning. He can't even get out of the first inning.
When he did get out of the inning.
When he got out of the inning, he had the guy struck out. Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand you miss those close pitches that are right on the borderline.
Yeah, that's
Anybody.
acceptable.
Yeah.
Fine.
Don't miss pitches right down the middle.
That's when it's egregious like that. That leads me to believe, like, you know what? We got the technology. Just no offense, but you got to get your ass out there. Put the robots in.
You've heard my friend Treblehorn, who managed in the big leagues. He says, time to get rid of them. There's bias. They don't like certain guys, so they stick it to them. Certain teams, they stick it to them. Bring in the machines, and let's go with that.
100%.
Yeah.
I just can't take it. Because now every game we watch, it's been like this for years, they got the special feature right there, so you can see where some of those pitches land.
Oh, man, can you imagine how much they hate those boxes on TV
They
that
hate
show
it.
the strike zone?
But then call a better pitch, you moron.
I know.
Like, if it's right on the corner where it could go either way, that's fine. But not
Yeah.
when something's obvious.
Or calling pitches that are in the dirt, strikes. I mean, Angel Hernandez is still umpiring in the big leagues. That tells you everything you need to know. Angel Hernandez is like the worst umpire ever.
But what a great gig if you finally get it. You'll do whatever you can to keep it because you get to travel around, be in all these baseball stadiums, making a good living.
Yeah,
It's not a
they pay
bad gig
well.
if you can get it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. Rip City Drive. Blazers and Hornets tomorrow. Game day at 1:30. Tip-off at 4. All right, high five time. Shacker, I want to turn my attention to you for a moment. Do you have any high fives you want to hand out, brother?
Sure. There's a movie I watched only because I saw 100,000 commercials for it over the last week during the tournament. Roadhouse on Prime.
No.
50 million views in the first week, setting a record for a streaming movie. 50 million for the Roadhouse remake.
But
How was it?
Was it any good?
Oh, it's excellent.
Huh.
The first one is the one with Patrick Swayze is from a different era. They're made a little differently. I guess more TNA back then. They didn't put that in the new one. But if you love crazy bar fight scenes and Conor McGregor, he's a future action movie star.
There you go. All right, Shacker. Props to the remake of Roadhouse.
50 million. That's putting the high in high five.
All right, I'm going to hand my high five out to my wonderful mom, who turns 76 years old today.
Happy birthday.
You going to watch Roadhouse with her tonight?
No, I'm not going to watch Roadhouse with my mom.
You're going to dinner, right?
I'm going to go have a nice family dinner and celebrate my mom's birthday. But I'm sure, like a lot of you out there who have wonderful moms, she has been that for me over the years. Wonderful, caring, great family person, smart, supportive. She can do anything with her hands. And she's wonderful. So I'm just happy that she's still healthy and happy, and we have a chance to go celebrate birthday. So, Mom, I love you, and happy birthday.
I've met her, and I'll vouch for everything you said. Very nice lady. And what she had to put up with raising you
Oh, my gosh.
would have killed some people, but she's still there, alive and kicking and doing well. I'm happy.
Well, we were joking about we had lunch today with Gretchen from Lazy Boy and one of our sales ladies, Janet Bain. Gretchen is one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life and had a chance to work with. She's awesome, like a dynamite. But we were joking because she's got 2 young boys. And so I was trying to warn her
Yeah.
about boys. And she's got a 14-year-old that's apparently in love with his girlfriend. And I'm like, look, here's what you should expect moving into the future when it comes to your sons, because I've been there and done that. And you and I have done the same thing where we start to your son did it, and I've done it to my mom, where we start to unload like that. Hey, that time when you thought we were doing this, here's what we're really doing. She doesn't want to hear any of that nonsense.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't want to know. You got any high fives?
Mine's got to go to Caitlin Clark.
She was epic last night.
That was wonderful television viewing, watching her in action. That I'll tell you, she's special. I give her that. She is really special.
Can you imagine how much money she is going to make when she gets into the WNBA? Like these companies that will want a piece of that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, she'll never lack for money the rest of her life.
No, she's going to be in a great spot. And I'm anxious to see her compete on the next level against even better competition night in and night out to see what she can do.
Yeah.
And maybe we can see her against Steph Curry or someone in a future three-point contest, or see her and Sabrina go at it. You know, some good possibilities there.
Aren't they? Are they holding a spot for her on the Olympic team? I think I heard that somewhere that they are.
I think so.
She
Yeah.
should be on it.
I'll watch that too.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a great thing to see her playing with those people. She could be just a pass first point guard on that team and really be good.
Those are the type of players you all want to play with, because if you're in the right spot, she's going to find you and you get open looks. Just
Yeah.
look at those teammates. I mean, her team, compared to the other squads that are out there, inferior in terms of overall talent. Like Caitlin's a true star, but she makes her teammates better. And that's
Yeah.
what stars do. They make the players around them better night
Yeah.
in and night out. And she's done that.
Yeah, I can't say enough about how impressive it was last night. I'm looking forward to seeing her in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think if I were Angel Reese, I'd probably go back to school
Mhm.
just for the opportunity to make that type of cash and NIL money. Because for some of these young ladies, yeah, it's not, the WNBA is not like the NBA. You can make a great living and have great opportunities, but we're not talking about, $50 million a year. So
Yeah.
why not capitalize on that chance to score the nest egg now?
Yeah, WNBA money, unlike NBA money, isn't going to set you up for life. It's not going to. NBA, you go into the NBA, you're going to be set for life in most cases, especially if you're a first round pick, but not so in the WNBA.
All right, let's go out to the preacher. He actually contradicts Michael Shacker's statement about the new Roadhouse. Let's check in with the preacher. Preacher, have you seen the new Roadhouse movie that dropped? What do you think?
Yesterday, it was pretty wild. I mean, when I saw the original the first time, we're talking neon lights, right?
Yeah.
Lots of neon lights. I mean, there's a lot of neon lights. And you want to talk about talent, and you've been talking about talent a lot on the show. Patrick Swayze carried that whole movie. No
That's
matter
true.
how
He did.
crappy it was in and out on the fences of things. But this thing was a little bit more wilder. That action scene kept my attention at the end because we're talking a huge, conglomerate there. But I just don't know, man. So, yeah, I'll leave that. Hey, my wife's against me because she loves the other dude. That who's the counterpart to that? The actor.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor.
There it is. Yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
She's a Jake
Good actor.
Gyllenhaal lover, and I'm always fighting her against her. So that's where I'm at with that. Love the show, listening in. But I would love to hear the Godfather's take on the demise of the Golden State Warriors and their coach. And he's a hardhead himself.
All right, I appreciate that. How would you classify Steve Kerr, who's been very successful?
I don't think he's a hardhead. I think he can be tough when he needs to be, but I think players like playing for him at least. He's not a yeller and a screamer.
No, but he's demanding.
Yeah.
And he expects you to do it his way or he'll pull you out of games.
They have a system, and he expects players to abide by it, and he's
been unafraid to go head-to-head with Draymond at times when he's had to go head-to-head with Draymond.
And he sees the end coming in Golden State, and he hasn't bailed on it. He stayed there for what's going to be a downtime coming up.
Yeah, he's been loyal. I think he has respect for Joe Lacob and, the work they've done together and doesn't want to just jump ship.
I got to say, too, by the way, I'm kind of done with fight scenes. I've seen enough fight scenes in movies in my life. I don't know many more I need to see.
What else can they do with a fight scene that we haven't seen already?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Just rewatch They Live with Roddy Piper.
Oh,
Now that's a good
that's
fight
one of
scene.
my favorite movies of all time.
All right, I guess what we'll have to do, we got off on the basketball tangent and the officiating tangent, but I guess we'll have to save the guy who married congenital twins for Thursday's show. I have so many questions about that. Most of them are inappropriate, too.
There's really only one question that everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
Right?
How does that happen? How does that work?
Yes.
We have two of these, two of those, one of those.
I've always heard
one of them a
two
high five. Are you giving both of them a high five?
Yeah. Two heads are better than one, I've always heard.
Well, in this case, you don't have a choice. You're going to get two whether you want to or not.
Yeah. Doubleheader.
That was the big topic of conversation right before the staff meeting today.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, from Tanner and Drew from 105.9 The Brew.
I think the morning show probably had quite a discussion about that.
They did. All right, big thanks to Michael Shacker, Justin Myers for joining the show. Tomorrow, no Rip City Drive. We've got game day at 1:30 and then tip-off with the Hornets at 4 o'clock. Have a good night.